Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I just thought I'd pop by and create another video. I haven't actually created anything for a week or so, so I thought it was about time I actually put that right. And also it's a way of getting myself back into creating something. I've been doing other things and sometimes it's difficult to get back into creating anything, so I think this is a good opportunity just to make something simple. I've also been asked if I can give details regarding my group. So if you go on Facebook and you look up Tracy Evans, Craft Addicts Create, Share and Inspire, you will find our group. And in that group we share ideas using my stamp sets and washi tapes. So if you'd like to join the group, you just request to join. It's a private group and then I will add you. There's a couple of questions to answer but nothing major, just to make sure that you know you're in the right group and it's where you want to be. So I was just asked if I could post that, and I was also asked if I could post because people were interested in the workshops, so I just thought I would post that. Right, so what I'm going to do is, I thought what I'd do is I'd create a project. I've just picked out some stamps. So I've picked out my Reckoner Digits. I've picked out my little leaf stamp. Let me just see if I've got a piece of white paper, because I haven't got the packaging for this. So I've picked out my leaf stamp as well. So I'm going to use that. I can't remember whether it's called Open Leaves or Leaves, but I will put the name of the stamps in the description. Actually, I could find out the thingy because I have got a photograph somewhere. So let's find out what it's actually called. So it's called Open Leaves and it's 557. Hey, that was efficient, wasn't it? And I'm also going to use one of the butterflies from Through the Meadows 449 because I adore this stamp set, and I think I'm going to do another butterfly stamp set if Abs okays it, because I've had so much pleasure out of this one. So I'm going to use one of the butterflies from there. And I'm not going to create anything too complicated because it's been a while since I've actually done anything. So I need to sort of break myself in slowly, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my leaf stamp set. You can actually see it better now when you haven't got the stamp on there. A nice open leaf. So I'm going to use that stamp set. And I'm just going to create my background, which I'm just going to add a parts of the leaf here in the background. So I'm just going to create a simple background, nothing too complicated. But what I'm thinking is, if I have this here, and then I might have this circular piece here like this. So I'm just thinking something simple. I've not done any prep, but that doesn't matter. We can create together. So I'm using my VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, and I'm giving that stamp a really good inking, just to make sure I've got a good even layer of ink. So just a good tapping motion. And then what I'm going to do is stamp this in the centre here. Now you can turn, let me just move this wire out of the way. You can turn it on the side if you wish, if that makes it easier for you. Sometimes it just depends how I'm feeling. If I really want it in an exact space, sometimes I have to look at it this way, just to make sure I've got it in the exact place that I want it to be. Sometimes if I turn it on the side, which I do very frequently because it's easier to stamp, but sometimes if I turn it on the side, I sometimes don't get it quite in the right place. So what I'm doing is I'm stamping onto craft card. I haven't used craft card for a while, and Diane, a lady who's in our group, posted a card with craft, and you know, I thought, oh, I think I'll use craft when I next make a card. So here I am using that craft card. So thank you, Diane, for reminding me I hadn't used craft card for a while. So I'm just allowing that ink to sit on there, and I've got the AALLandCreate acrylic blocks, so I can just lever. It's got a flexible block, so it just means I can lever that and make sure I've got the whole detail. So just look at the detail in that. Let me just pick that up. Oh, she can't pick it up. you can just see the beautiful detail in that. Nice and simple, nothing too complicated. Now, because I've used the craft card, there shouldn't really be much need to block too much, because it should soak into that card. Yes, it's soaked in there, because the crafts card sort of, it just sucks that ink, which is great. Do you like the sound effects? So I'm just going to make sure I've got a water brush, and just going to make sure that that water brush is clean. So I'm just, yes, professionally wiping it on my hand like you do. Now, I'm going to use a touch of Inktense Pencil. Now, obviously, normally when I'm using Inktense Pencil, I will use like a watercolour card, or a card like Pink Frog Smooth or Bristol Smooth, anything like that that will allow the pigment to move. Obviously, with craft card, it's an absorbent card, and it might not move quite as easily, but that's okay, because what I'm doing is I'm going for a touch of colour to the leaves. So if it doesn't move too much, it's not a problem. As long as it moves a little bit, that's absolutely fine. And sometimes I do like to break the rules. So I'm just adding a little bit of that Inktense. So sorry, these are Inktense pencils, which means they are reactive with water. And with the Inktense pencils, if you wanted to stamp this onto fabric, you can actually colour with the Inktense pencils onto fabric. You just have to iron it just to make them permanent. So I'm just adding a bit of colour. And the idea of this video is, yes, hopefully to inspire you to have a go, but also the idea of this video is just to get myself going again. I've had a difficult week, and I just need something to maybe give me my spark back to create again. So I'm just, and I don't mind admitting why I've lost my spark. I lost my dad on Monday. My dad passed away, and it's been a very difficult week. So I've come to my desk now, and I'm a little bit lost. I'm a little bit, I haven't had the urge to create, mainly because I've been doing sad things. So sometimes when this happens, I either have to garden, or I have to just come and create for the sake of creating. It might not end up being a beautiful piece, but as long as I've enjoyed the process, that's what matters. As long as it's just, lifted the spirits a little bit. So that's what I'm hoping. So just colouring that. Now I just need to remember, I'm going to place this over there like that. So I don't know why I'm colouring that area there. So I don't need to colour that area there. So let's just place that again, like so. So it's these areas, that's fine. And what I'm using is, as I get older, my eyesight. So we've got an apple green, which is that one. Apple green. And what other colour have we got? What does that say? Teal green. Of course, there we go. It focuses a bit better there. Teal green. So I'm just going to add a little bit of the teal. Oh, that's definitely a much stronger colour. The teal. Definitely stronger. So how have you all been? How are things? I hope you're enjoying your creative time. I know in some ways, we've got back to normal life, which is good. We've come out of lockdown, but are you still creating? I still do enjoy my creative time. So just adding a little bit of darkness just around, spit it out, Tracy, just around the leaves. So I'm just adding the darker shade, which is the teal, just around the edges. I do like, it's funny because the two things I love about craft is I love to stamp onto craft. I like white embossing on craft. I think that looks nice. But I also like it when you add a bit of colour on craft as well. It's a lovely, lovely combination. But if you wanted to, you could add this leaf and white emboss it and add the colour if you wish. But I'm just going for a different feel at the moment, just something a little bit more, a little bit bolder. So I'm just adding this little bit of shading, just with the teal. I'm doing it again, I'm colouring down here, aren't I? Can't help myself. So just adding a little bit of the... Let's see how it reacts with the water. Let's see if we can make it... Oh, yes, we can. That's not bad at all, that isn't. It's reacting quite nicely. I'm impressed. That's actually amazed me, because I was expecting the craft card to only move a little bit. This is why I love Inktense pencils. They're just fab. But it actually moves quite nicely. It does. And I'm just wiping it. You can just wipe it onto a piece of card, but I'm just wiping it a little bit so that when I get the dark area, I just wipe it off on my hand, just so that I don't bring in too much of the darkness without having the lightness as well. Let me just lift that up just so that you can see. Look how it's reacting. That's really good for craft card, that is. I'm nicely surprised. Let me just grab some wipes. My daughter or somebody's been in the wipes. So now when I pull the wipes, I can pull about 10 out at once. Typical. So let's just get a scrap of paper just so that we can wipe our colour on. Yes, I'm nicely impressed with how that colour moves. So just blending that colour. And I do love this leaf stamp. I do think it works quite nicely. Let me just make sure you can see that in camera. Yes, you can. So just blend that. Wow. Isn't it funny how you fall in love with certain products all over again? You know, sometimes I'm using the Inktense pencils all the time. Sometimes I don't use them very much. But it's funny how you create one card and you fall back in love with something. The Inktense pencils are fab. I do love them. So I'm just wiping off because I'm blending the lighter colour here, and then when I go into the darker colour, I wipe it off so that I don't take the darker colour before I blend the lighter colour again. And it's one of those things that it doesn't take too long and it's worth doing. It's actually pouring down with rain outside. Excuse me. So it's not very pleasant out. Definitely no gardening weather, that's for sure. So just blending this out. Don't need to colour that area. And what you can see here is, let's just pick up a little bit of this lighter pigment. Just add a little bit of the lightness. Just there. So you can pick up a little bit of the pigment if you wish, straight from the pencil. But just be warned, don't soak this pigment. Don't soak it too much because you don't want it to raise up into the pencil. So just a little bit of moisture. I do apologise about my voice. I have no idea why it's gone all croaky. So just picking up a little bit of this pigment here. Just so it's got a little bit of that light colour. And a little bit here. And a little bit there. And I can see I've got the light colour there, but I haven't got much of the dark colour. So pick up the dark colour. Just add that around the edges. And it just works really nicely, just using the Inktense pencil. Just so that you can see that. I'm really surprised how that's moved. Pleasantly surprised as well, which is lovely. Right, let's just move that out of the way. Let's just move the water pencil out of the way. And what I'm going to do is grab a piece of white card. And what I'm going to do is grab this ATC coin. Now, if I've had this on my, seriously, I've had this on my desk, it must be months. But if you don't have an ATC coin, it doesn't matter. Just cut a circular piece of card out. I'd say that's around about 2 inches. Let's see if we've judged that right. Let's see what that measures. Well, if it's, of course it's going to be, if it's an ATC corn trace, it's going to be 2.5 inches. Yes, it's 2.5 inches. Oh dear. Do you know, I can be a drip at times. So obviously it's an ATC coin, so it's 2.5 inches. What am I like? So just going to cut that out. I do apologise that I'm cutting out on a video because I've done no prep, because it was literally, I'm going to create something just to get myself going, and I thought, why not create a video at the same time? That's literally what it was about. So just cut that out. Now, if you're ever worried about when you're cutting out and you're thinking, oh, that doesn't look very good, just hide it a little bit and you can just distress the edges. Just distress the edges and nobody will know any different. Say that you've got dexterity problems and you can't get an absolutely perfect circle. Well, don't stress. Just distress the edges, then it looks like it was meant to be. Nobody will know any difference. So don't stress about that. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take this square leaf once again, and I'm going to stamp that leaf, part of that leaf, onto the circle. Just stamp part of that on there. So just taking my time just to stamp that on there. And still allowing that ink to rest on the card. This is a scrap of card I've picked up. Let me just see if I can see. It's Centura Pearl. So I was just seeing what I've got there. It's Centura Pearl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bit of the Inktense Pencil. Just to one of the leaves. So I'm just adding a little bit of Inktense Pencil to one of the leaves. Just, obviously I've got something wrong, but I don't want to do this side. I keep missing that side. So just adding a little bit of Inktense Pencil just to that one leaf. Same Inktense Pencil colours. And as you can see, nothing professionally, you know, it's just scribbling that Inktense Pencil just on there. Just adding the darker shade around the edges. Just going to wipe my brush just so that what I'm going to do is just blend all the lighter colour. Then I can go to the darker colour after. So just blend that lighter colour, and then I can just bring in the darker colour. I do love Inktense pencils because on the craft they're not quite as bright, and on the white it's nice and bright. Just blend that. There we go. Let me just show that. So what I'm going to do, as you see, I'm going to add this to the ATC coin. I'm going to add it to that. And what I'm going to see is what it looks like if I add some clear embossing. So let's just adhere it first. Let's just adhere that first. Oh, now I'm hot. It's stopped raining. And now I'm getting warm. So just add that to my, what's this called? ATC coin. Like so. So just add that to that ATC coin. And if you want, you can leave it like that. I'm just having a play now. So I want this bit of paper. Let's open that up. And I've got my Wow embossing powder. And I've got my stamp. Let's just ink the stamp. Mind you, I'll probably have to ink it again. But let's just ink it with some black Nocturne ink. And what I'm going to do is add my Versamark. So my Versamark ink. And I'm just going to add that, my Versamark ink, to my ATC coin. Like so. And then sprinkle. Now what you would normally do if you were going to do this is you would use an ultra thick embossing powder, but to be honest I no longer have any ultra thick embossing powders. One, they were difficult to get hold of eventually when people weren't doing them as much, so I'm just using what I've got. That's all it is really. Just plugging my heat tool in, and I'm working with what I've got, because, you know, I always tend to do that, work with what I've got. But if you're doing the triple embossing, then you normally need an ultra thick embossing powder. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to build up the layers. Let me just make sure that with it being on white paper, you can still see. You might not see the embossing change because we're on a white background. But what you should also do is, so that you're not sitting here for ages, you should make sure that your heat tool is warmed up. And if you make sure that your heat tool is warmed up, it works a little bit quicker for you. But as always, I'm in no rush, so it's not a problem. Not a problem at all. It's just going now on the edges. You can tell when it goes because it gets a little bit shinier. So we're just crafting together and I'm in no rush, so it's not a problem. Let me just see if you can see. You can see it's getting a little bit shinier now. And what you do is you heat that embossing powder, and then you make sure that it's hot all over, and then you sprinkle a second layer. Now, don't worry if you're a little bit slower and you don't catch that second layer while it's hot, because all you do is you reapply the Versamark ink. That's it. So don't worry if you don't catch it when it's hot. It's not a problem. Just reapply the Versamark ink. And then you can repeat the same process. And because I'm using a fine embossing powder, a wow embossing powder, obviously it's going to take a little bit longer. But if you're watching, obviously you will be watching this on a pre-recorded video, so you can fast forward me melting this. But I'm just doing this in real time. I'm not going to fast forward anything. That's just what I do, but you can fast forward. So just heating that embossing powder again. Just making sure it's all melted. Just take your time. I love it when the embossing powder melts. Then while it's hot, add another layer. Obviously be careful because you're using a hot surface, your substrate gets warm. So just make sure you don't burn your fingers. And then we carry on with the process. You just move this card because I'm just sprinkling embossing powder all over it like you do. I've never quite got enough room on my desk. I'm now nudging the wire. Not quite enough room. Let's move these out the way. Just so that you can see a little bit more. Let me just see that. Yes, you can. You can see that. You can see it's melting. Where it's cloudy is where the embossing powder is. And where it's shiny is where I've melted. And you can see that the embossing powder beads up. What you're trying to do is get a smooth surface so you've no longer got those beads or openings. You want to make sure it's all melted. And I am going to add another layer of the embossing. I always think clear embossing looks lovely. So I think I'll take it off the paper now. Just move that on one side and melt it here on my non-stick craft sheet. Let's just put that lid on so we don't knock it anywhere. And this is where you sort of need 3 hands. So I'm just going to add a little bit more ink just to my leaf stamp. It'll just release a little bit easier if I add a little bit of ink. It's a bad habit I get into. I just shake the heat tool. I don't need to shake the heat tool. I can just keep it still. Just take your time just to heat that. Sometimes you need to reheat over certain areas because it isn't smooth. Not that it's going to matter whether it's smooth or not in a minute. So I'm just making sure that that's really hot. Now, because we're using a stamp that's a really good quality photopolymer, means you can do this technique no problem at all. So just heat that. Just heating it until it's molten. And then when it's molten, I'm going to almost try and line the leaf up again. Just like before. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. And I'm just going to press where the leaf lines up. It won't line up perfectly, it's not meant to, but what I'm doing is I'm not pressing the whole area. I'm just pressing this central leaf into the embossing powder. Just the central leaf is getting most of the pressure from my fingers. Okay, so that's pressed into there. And what I'm going to do is allow that to cool for a few moments. So just tighten my embossing powder. I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just playing. And as you can see, it's stuck on the ATC coin, and you can tell when you press the ATC coin, it's really hot. So while we're just waiting for that, just let's get a piece of kitchen roll and dust this, because it's covered in embossing powder, because Tracy got the embossing powder everywhere. So just give that a dust, just so that it's dusted. And then while we're just waiting for that to cool, let's decide on which butterfly I'm going to use. I think I'm going to use this one. So let's just take out this stamp set. It's quite a big stamp set because it's A4. So I'm just going to take that off, move that out the way. There's not very many places to move it out the way, but I'll keep trying. Will it fit on? No, it's not going to fit on A6. You need A5. Oh, I've got that many. What size is that? It's an A4 acrylic block. Oh. So I'm just trying to find, there we go, A5 acrylic block. I only want the butterfly anyway, so it's not a problem. Why am I faffing? Nobody knows, because I don't need an A5 acrylic block, because I'm just stamping the butterfly, so we can do it freehand. So we should be able to remove this now. There we go. Now, it's going to be very difficult to see on camera, but you'll see that it's indented slightly where I've pressed the leaf. So what I'm going to do is take, no, don't want, let's have a little bit of gold. A little bit of gold. Now, my fingernails are far too long for digging in that, what's this called, this wax. So I'm just going to place a little bit on my non-stick craft sheet, and then I'm just going to go over. Let me just see if you can see. It's actually indented. So I'm just going to just apply a little bit. Let's pick a little bit more up. Let's see if I can do it with my thumb. I always place it out on the non-stick craft sheet because you can apply too much wax, believe it or not, and it looks messy. So you just need to be careful. I always apply it on there. Let me just lift that up. You can see. I'll just wipe my hands and just wipe here, just so it doesn't stain. You can always use some alcohol or what you call it, hand sanitizer, just to remove it off your non-stick craft sheet. So I'm just cleaning that. Let me just wipe my hands. I think I've got some alcohol blending solution. Now what you could also do, you could also apply alcohol inks. You could apply alcohol inks to this because it's like a glass tile like finish now. So you could add your alcohol inks. And you could just dip them in, or you could just dab them. So you could literally pour the alcohol ink directly in, or you could just, I'll use some hand sanitizer. Let me just move that off my hand. Now let me just lift this. Let me just see if, there we go. You can see, and when you put your hand over it, it's actually raised. It's actually raised. So just show that. It's actually raised up. So you can see that. So let's just bring in our card. So this is going to go here. Okay, but what I want to do is get a bit of washi. And I'm going to use my cut, tear and layer washi. I've just nearly ridden over my acrylic block. Let's just move that out of the way. So I'm using the cut, tear and layer because it's got some white in it. Can you see that we've got white in the background here? So I want some of this white washi tape, which is my washi tape, cut, tear and layer. I just want some touches of white in the background. Just because it will coordinate with the white. I'm going to keep that word plant just to use. It'll just add a little bit of whiteness to the background. Just so that when I put that on, it looks like it all coordinates. Because it's got that touch of white on there as well. Just so it all works together. Right, am I going to stick that down? Yes, I am going to stick that down. So we'll stick down the ATC coin. I'm just using a PVA glue. I'm using a good PVA glue just so that it grabs hold. Just, I think I want it down like that. There we go. I'm just going to use a scrap of paper just to press that down. I always use a scrap of paper just so that I don't get any finger marks on. There we go. That looks great. So what we're going to do now is grab that piece of card that I was using before. And what we're going to do is grab this butterfly that we've got here. And we're going to stamp this butterfly. So I don't know why I was looking for an acrylic block, because we don't need an acrylic block. Because we just need the butterfly, and we can stamp that without the acrylic block. I've got a hair stuck on there. So we can just stamp that with our fingers just onto the background of the white card. There we go. Let's do 2 of those butterflies. I just love this stamp set. I just think it's such a usable set. I never tire of it. I think it's because it's got everything I love on there. So just, and then I bought new stamp sets out recently, and one of them's got rosemary on it, on a tag, and the butterfly would look beautiful with that as well. Would work really well. There we go. Let's just place that back on there. we'll just give that a little bit of a blot, just because it's a good habit to get into. So just give that a bit of a blot. And then we'll cut those butterflies out. So I do apologise that they aren't cut out already. It's just I did no prep, and the idea was that I just came upstairs and got on with it. So the reason I cut the excess card away is it just makes it easier to cut your butterflies out if you're not messing with excess card. So it just makes it a lot easier to cut that butterfly out. And I just turn the card rather than my scissors. So I'm moving my card each time. It just makes it easier for me to cut out. I do love this butterfly. I just think it's lovely. I've used that heat tool now. Oh, talk about hot. Just cut these out. And I'm having two just because then I've got the layers. Just because it'll give me a little bit of dimension. And I'm not going to worry about the antennae on this occasion. I hear you say, yay, no antennae. I know what you like. You don't like the fussy cutting. So we'll get rid of that later. Just chuck that on the floor. So we've got a beautiful butterfly that I can't seem to pick up. And then, I don't know why I'm chucking things on the floor. I did hoover up not long ago. So chucking things on the floor is really not good. Defeats the whole object of cleaning up. But there you go. That's me all over. So just cut that out. Just cut that around. Again, moving that card just to make it easier for me to cut out. And I'm using my Pergamano scissors to cut out the image, mainly because I like the Pergamano scissors because they're curved. They've got a curvature, so it works beautifully for cutting out little details. It does for me anyway. We all like different things, don't we? Just cut that out. There we go. And ooh, it seems a shame to waste that bee. Let's just cut that out. Put that on the floor again. Let's cut that out. I can't hold the card, honestly. I'm all fingers and thumbs. And you can keep it a funny shape if you want, just so it's not quite so regimented. Looks a bit more quirky. You know me and quirky. Right, so what I'm going to do is take the butterfly. I'm not going to add it to both. I'm just going to add a little bit of colour. Actually, no, I like it in these tones. You could, if you wanted to make it a little bit different, you could make your butterfly reds and oranges, because that'll go with the blues and the greens and turquoises. If you wanted it to make it red and orange, you could do that. So I'm just using my Inktense pencils again. Just add a little bit of colour over there. So, a little bit of turquoise. I keep picking up a little hair. It's lovely, not. So let's blend out that green colour. Just blend that out a little bit. Just to... And it really does get a lot more vibrant when you add the water to it. Definitely a lot more vibrant. Then bring out this turquoise colour. Just wipe my finger and blend a little bit more. And let's, there we go, a little bit more. Let me just show you that butterfly, just so that you can see that. And I'm going to add one on top of the other. Move this out of the way. Blend one on top of the other. Not blend, add. Got the word blend on the brain now. Just add my butterfly just to that white one, just so that when underneath you can see a little bit of white, which matches the white in the background of the circle and the washi tape. There we go. Let's bring in our card. Just going to add, just decide where you want to add your butterfly. Mine's going to go here, like so. And I'm going to grab a little bit of cotton. Just to give a little bit more texture. Just to the background. Just messing it up a little bit, just so it's not too perfect. We don't want it perfect. Just going to add, let me just, a blob of adhesive there, and then a blob of adhesive, just so that, let's grab the scissors, just so that butterfly grabs. Now don't worry if you see a little bit of adhesive below, because one, I'm going to add a pen nib, and two, it will dry clear, and I will clear that up in just a second. I will tidy it all up. So let me just find, I've got a little card here from Catherine, so I just need to move that up a little bit so I can find my pen nibs. So we're just going to add a pen nib. Let's add a pen nib in it, like a brassy bronzy colour. Could you tell I couldn't describe what brassy bronzy colour I'm trying to say? So we're going to add the little pen nib. I can't hold it at all. Just add a little pen nib. I do end up faffing a little bit. I do apologise. And obviously it's going to move because it's not set yet. Let's just pick. I can't wait. I need my nails cutting. I'll have to do that. It's another job I need to do. So just adding that, and then let's just bring in my, oh dear me, everything's falling over here because I've got everything on my desk. Is that an Inktense pencil? Just use my Inktense pencil, and I'm just going to add a little bit of shading. Now if you wanted, you could actually use your green Inktense pencil around the outer edge and bring the green shading in the outer edge. So I'm just using a grey. I think it's called Chinese ink or Indian ink? Chinese ink, Inktense pencil. So just going around the ATC coin, just going around that in some of the areas as well, just to give a little bit of shading. Just wipe my brush and let's just blend this out. Just blend that out, just add a little bit of shading. Like so. obviously the card will dry, so you won't see that moisture, you'll just see the grey shading. Just gives it a little bit of shadow, so don't worry, you won't see that. Just a little bit of shading just under the ATC coin. Let's add a little bit round here, just round there, like so. Just blend that round. Just move the butterfly a little bit. Just press it down a little bit. If it just isn't grabbing, just press that down. Just wipe your brush just so that you don't put that onto another project when you come to do it later. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use, let me just get some acrylic blocks. I've got stuff everywhere. Let me just move this out the way. Just move this, let me just bring this up so you can see where we're at so far. Just so that you can see that. Just tilt that, just so that you can see that. What we're going to do is grab another piece of the white card. Just tear that because I've not got much space here at all. And grab my little A7 acrylic block. Common in Woods, which is from the stamp set 449. Just give that an inking with my VersaFine Clair Nocturne. Stamp that Common in Woods. And then I think we've got the word Meadows. There it is. Place that back. And we've got the word Meadows on the same set. Just cut that out. There we go. I always go quiet when I go to cut something out. It's like I need the concentration of not talking while I'm cutting at the same time. Do you ever do that? Suddenly forget that you need to speak. So just cut that out. So that's the Common in Woods. Let's stamp the Meadows. And again, this white sentiment will bring in the white that we've got in the background of the ATC coin and the white of the washi tape. Meadows. Now obviously you could cut this out on your cutters if you wish, if you prefer to do it that way. But sometimes if you do it freehand, especially if you've cut the bee out like I have, which is quite quirky, sometimes goes with it if it's not too perfect. Let's move that out the way so you can see what I'm doing. Oh, I've got everything but the kitchen sink on this desk. So we've got Common in Woods and Meadows. Like so. And then we've got this bee, which I'm going to decide where I put the bee for the butterfly, which is probably going to be tucked there. Yes, it is. So add the Common in Woods, and then we will bring a little bit of white into the background with the matte and layering. just so that it looks like we've thought about the whole process. And I'm not adding any shading, too much shading around everything, just so that you've still got those open areas and it's not too dark. It's still got, even though we've used craft card, it's still got some vibrancy about it. Just add that. Do you know, I cannot wait to cut my nails. It's been one of those things that's been put off, but I can't do a thing with them. They're so long. You needed to know that, didn't you? Of course you did. That's it. I need to tuck that under there. There we go. And then I'm going to add a tiny bit of shading. Just to this, just a little bit. Nothing too much. Just a little bit of shading. There's something flying by my window. I don't know whether it's a pigeon, but it's very distracting. Let's just add a little bit of shading. Just around. Oops, I keep doing that. I keep moving my butterfly. I'm driving myself mad. Just press that butterfly down. Just adding a little bit of shading around there. And these are the little bits. I like taking my time just to add a few of the finishing touches. It's just my favourite bit. It's what finishes everything off for me. Just add the little bit of shading around there. There we go, a little bit around here. There we go. And then I think I just want a little clip. So what we're going to do, let's just add to the white mat, because the white mat will bring some vibrancy to the image. So let's use add it to the white mat. Hopefully my butterfly won't fall off. Well, my ATC coin won't, because that'll be fully dry. But I'm just thinking about the butterfly. So just add that to a white mat. That whiteness just brings a bit of vibrancy to it all. Just lifts it a little bit, just so that you can see that. Lifts that quite nicely. Then we add that to a craft card. Just add this to a craft card. Like so. I'm just taking my time. I tend to stand up just to make sure that it's all okay. I'm going to add some white splatters. Just make sure that works. Just put that adhesive away. Now what I would do, because you've got more time, I would add an insert. Add an insert. Just add a little touch of the washi and a little bit of your butterfly, just to finish it off professionally. Now just wipe this up like so. So just so you can see, the little white splatters just add a little bit more vibrancy to go with the white sentiments, the white bee, the white in the ATC coin, but just so that you can see that ATC coin has got dimension. Okay, and what I'm going to grab find them. Yes, we've got them. I'm just going to see if I've got a little, I can't see anything in here. The drawer's so dark. Little bulldog clip. So let's get a little bulldog clip. Now I don't want the bulldog clip to be in silver, so I'm just going to grab a little bit of this on my finger and just add it to the bulldog clip, just so it's got that touch of gold. Just wipe my fingers. It's up my fingernails, it's everywhere. That's what happens when you create a card. So I've just made my bulldog clip with the bit of gold wax, just because it coordinates them beautifully with everything else. Just going to add that here, which is going to take a few seconds to grab hold. And then I've got the washi tape here. There's the word plant on my washi tape, which I'm going to use, because I said I was going to use it before. This is on my cut, tear and layer. I love it. Sometimes I love a black washi tape. Sometimes I love it if it's got a touch of white. Every time it works a little bit differently. I can hardly pick this up. It's stuck to my finger. Oh dear me. You know what I'm like with faffing. You know what I'm like. Just going to add that under there, like that. There we go. So then, that is your card finished. Just so that you can see all the details, just put that on one side, just so that you can see there's dimension on that ATC coin. You can see the leaf and the shading, like so. So I hope you enjoyed that. Now you remember to do an insert for your card, because that will be beautiful then. So I hope you enjoyed the card. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you all have a lovely week, and I shall see you all soon. Love to all. Bye for now.